Gunshots rang out this morning at the U.S. Navy Yard in Washington, D.C., killing several people and injuring many others. At least 13 people have been killed at the Naval Sea Systems Command headquarters, including a D.C. police officer and another law enforcement officer, plus alleged shooter Alexis, who also died at the scene of this mass shooting. The Navy Yard was established back in 1799 and is the oldest Navy installation. It's the residence of the Chief of Naval Operations, and it's responsible for weapons development, among other functions. There are about 16,000 civilian and military employees who work in the complex, with 3,000 employees in that specific building. And the yard has about 2.2 million square feet of office space in total. President Obama addressed the tragedy during his speech today.
We are confronting yet another mass shooting, and today it happened on a military installation in our nation's capital. It's a shooting that targeted our military and civilian personnel. These are men and women who were going to work, doing their job, protecting all of us.
So what happened today at the U.S. Navy Yard? Well, RT's Sam Sachs is there right now with the latest. Sam, we have a picture of one of the alleged shooters, Alexis, who is now deceased. What do we know about the gunman who has perpetrated this attack?
Well, we don't know much yet. Police are still trying to gather more information on the suspected gunman, Alexis, 34-year-old from Fort Worth, Texas. Former Navy reservist and military contractor. We're here right now on M Street, which is still closed down. We're a few blocks away from the Navy Yard, where roughly 9 hours ago, there was a mass shooting here. The death toll has now risen to 13 people, and that includes the suspected shooter, Alexis. Police are still trying to determine whether Alexis acted alone. There were reports earlier today that there might be two other suspects, a light-skinned male and a dark-skinned male in military uniform. We've since learned that police have identified the light-skinned male in military uniform, and he's no longer a suspect, but there's still this other suspect that's out on the loose, and as a result, police are still telling people around the area to remain indoors, and that this is still very much an active criminal investigation.
And Sam, have any of the employees been able to leave, or are they still on lockdown at this point?
Well, a few hours ago, probably about an hour and a half ago, we started seeing a stream of people leaving the Navy Yard, walking this way. These were all the people who were still stuck inside when the shooting went down. A lot of people were able to flee the building. Others had to stay and shelter in place, and they were there for about 8 hours. And we caught up with one individual who was actually in the building where the shooting took place, and here's what he had to say.
I came in a little late and was coming in the main entrance, and as I was going up to my office area, I heard what I thought was a locker falling to the ground or slamming a door. It didn't really sound like a gunshot to me. And then, a couple of friends I seen kind of spooked them, and then after that, maybe 10, 15 seconds, I heard another couple of bursts, which I didn't think was gunshot. But there again, you can't really tell if I wasn't expecting to hear that kind of sound.
So really, we heard from people coming out. A lot of confusion. People weren't sure what exactly was going on, but a lot of relief and a lot of tired people leaving the Navy Yard now after being locked in place for, again, up to 8 hours, both during the shooting and now long after the shooting has ended.
And Sam, you have been there all day since the morning when the attack took place around 8:30. You've been speaking to a lot of people on the ground. Can you tell me about some of the other eyewitness accounts you've been able to gather while there?
Sure. Well, as you said, this is a very large building. 3,000 people work here. So we caught up with a few people who were there when the shooting took place. One of them was a commander in the Navy, a man by the name of Tim Gyrus. He was in a nearby building when he heard the shots ring out. He fled down with someone else. Here was what he had to say.
So in the military in general, in the Navy, we're trained for combat operations away from here. We're the away team. We go off and fight other wars in other locations. We don't do it here. So seeing somebody die in front of you here where you work at is more of a relationship of you talking to God, or you realizing just how fragile life is and how random it is and how quickly you're here and you're not. Because it could have easily been me, the guy who got hit, as opposed to the guy standing next to me.
So we also talked to more witnesses. We talked to a woman who was in the cafeteria at the time of the shooting. She said she heard 4 loud shots, a pause, then a series of another loud shots, and she then fled into a secure area. Basically, if you can imagine the way this building looks, you walk into the first floor, there's a giant atrium, and then you look up and there's several floors, and from those floors there's balconies. And it's believed that their shooter was on the 4th floor shooting down into this atrium area. I also spoke with some other eyewitnesses and people who work in the building about the security of the building. They all said that they thought this building was very secure. You need special clearance cards to get into the building. But if you have this clearance card, you can enter the building. You don't have to go through additional security like a magnetometer or any other metal detector to determine whether or not you have weapons. I talked with someone who said they do random checks to make sure people aren't carrying weapons. But other than that, if you have the card, you can enter the building. And it's believed that this suspect, Aaron Alexis, acquired one of these security clearance cards from someone who works here and was able to gain access into the building that way. But still, a lot of questions that need to be answered.
And Sam, do we know anything at this point about motive? There have been reports that this may have been a disgruntled employee. Is there a reason to believe that there is a larger motive at hand?
Yeah, I think it's certainly too early to tell about a motive here. In a last police briefing here, they said they have no idea what a motive is. They're going to probably, now that we have this suspect, Aaron Alexis in Texas, they're going to be going back and seeing what sort of behavior he'd been engaged in the last few weeks. But as for this location, I mean, this is the Navy Yard. It's been around since 1799. It's the oldest shore establishment in the Navy. These buildings, they house the Chief of Naval Operations of the Naval Sea Systems Command, but mostly this is about ship acquisitions, ship contracts. You see a lot of contractors going in and out of the building as well as military personnel. But really trying to figure out what sort of motive might have influenced this guy to go in and commit these horrific killings would be speculation at this point.
Well, that was RT's Sam Sachs.